Well, Dan?
Yeah, luckily we didn't have any. So this is pre-recorded. Usually we don't do that.
Usually we don't. But we're going to start having to do it a little more often.
Right, because of travel days, and we want to put out 2 episodes a week. Because this is, by the way, this is you assholes. This isn't us.
Yeah.
You guys have, and the reason we're upstairs on a different set right now is because Ross and Jesse are recording downstairs. You've really inconvenienced us by enjoying the show that we do.
And I got to tell you.
I don't appreciate it.
I got to tell you, it's so hot up here.
Oh, it is. Yeah, you're sweating badly.
It's kind of...
Is the body fat percentage becoming a problem, or what is that?
Okay, bro. So let me tell you what happened this morning. I went in and, because I just launched my new fitness app, On the Dash Training, really badass app. Go check it out at onthedashtraining.com. But anyways, we're launching this 30-day challenge. And before we do it, I went and got a DEXA scan where it measures your body fat, right? So I'm in there and I walk in, and first off, I asked this girl just like to fuck with her. I'm like, hey, how fat do you think I am? She's like 28%, like didn't even miss a beat. I was like, oh gosh, if I'm
that's probably the average for adult men, I would guess.
It actually, me and Owen were there, and we were like looking at it's like it's like considered
for even a relatively in shape adult man, it's probably about 28%. Because like for an adult woman that's relatively in shape, it's like 35%, just because of
So it came
titties.
back. So it came back, and I guess I'm 23%.
That's not that bad.
No, it's in the what they called the fitness range, but it's not in the athlete range. So I've got to get it down to 19%, which I'm going to do in the next 30 to 60 days. 19%, and then but I think that's why I'm like sweating up here, like.
Well, probably. I mean, the more fat that's in your body, the harder your body has to work. The harder it has to use thermogenic energy to keep you cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that makes sense. By the way, the notes that we have for today are for tomorrow's show. So we're going to go, this is what we're going to talk about today instead, because I don't want you guys to miss Jared's opinion on Prince Harry and all of his bullshit. So what we're going to talk about today is China and why all of these piece of shit actors and athletes continue to support China. John Cena, right?
Yeah.
Accidentally called Taiwan a country, and now he's on the apology tour apologizing to fucking China. Like, I love China. I love and respect China. Really? You love and respect China?
Why?
Are you out of your fucking mind? I mean, these people
are so fucking... China is doing such a great job.
I don't mean to say these people. Chinese people are fine. People are not their government, right? That's not the case. The Chinese government is fucked. Big time. Like, they are the world leader in industrial espionage. They steal tech all the time. They
still have concentration camps.
Yeah, for Uyghur Christians, yeah?
Yes.
Or is it, are they Muslims? No. Uyghur Muslims, yeah. Yeah, they are but just a couple of years removed from literally murdering female children because they wanted more males. But it's fucking wild.
This is like this is why history has got, like, we keep trying to take out what's going on and telling both sides of the story and all this. And like, look, obviously this deal with Israel and Palestine is all fucked up, right?
Yeah, and it's a lot more complicated than a lot of people are making it, right? I mean,
but here's what I gotta tell you. When I see, have you seen where it said gays for Palestine?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Because that's like gays for Saudi Arabia, where they literally throw them off of rooftops.
Like gays for ISIS.
Right.
Like, support whoever you want, but this is how detached. This is. You
need to be realistic, because even if they are being, and I think they are, I think the blockade is completely immoral that Israel's doing right now. I think there's a better solution 100%. For that. But also, Palestine has been offered an olive branch a bunch of times over the last 50, 60 years, and they won't take any of them. And
egos.
Even if they are being oppressed because of the behavior of their government, one, they're the ones that elected the fucking, they elected Hamas to lead their government. Two, that is no excuse to excuse fucked up behavior. But just because they're being fucked with by Israel doesn't mean that it's okay that they hate Israel, that they fucking hate Jews in general, that they hate gay people. That's not, none of that shit's okay. So it's, you don't want to conflate those two.
But this goes back to why our country is so, like, our problems in this country aren't because our country's fucked. Our problems in this country is because our country is so good. Like these people, gays for Palestine. That right there shows you that we have sheltered people from the realities of these other countries because we've provided such a great fucking country of freedom. Like this is what you get. Like you know those kids that were like, and nothing against it, but you have to admit a child that was either in private school or an all girls school or an all boys school or
homeschooled mostly, was.
They are more sheltered to life than a person who went to public school. Right?
Well, that's what the guys are talking about in the coddling of the American mind all the time. Prepare your kids for the road, not the road for your kids.
But here's what I got to tell you.
There's always consequences to an easy upbringing.
When I see these people who are apologizing, who are in the news, apologizing to China.
Yeah.
This tells me a lot. You want to know why he's fucking John Cena?
Money.
A fucking cow.
Because 5 of the 8 studios in LA.
Yes.
And Hollywood rather are owned by China. That's
exactly.
why.
And that's why this fucking coward, John Cena. I used to like the dude.
I did too. Yeah, he hangs out with what's his nuts all the time. The sniper. Fuck's his name? Black Sniper Ranger.
Oh, you're talking about Nicholas Irving?
Yeah, Irving. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I like both of them. I've always liked both of them.
But I mean,
I've always liked John Cena.
Shit. This is coward shit that he wants to back. Like right now, John Cena is choosing money
over human life.
Yeah, and it's fucked up.
This is
again.
It's LeBron James all over again. Look at how the NBA crucified the fucking general manager of the Houston Rockets, the former general manager, when he was like, "Fuck China, like they suck, dude. What are you talking about? They're like, there's no, it's like the UK with the Falkland Islands. Prince Harry, I don't know if he fought there, but his older brother did. Like they've been sending troops down to the Falkland Islands for years, to fight down there. Why, dude? Why have we been sending people to the Middle East for 21 years now? For what purpose? You know what I mean? We sold guns to both Iran and Iraq. We've got weird.
We armed the Taliban.
Yeah, well, we armed. We created the Taliban. We turned the Mujahideen into an actual fighting force.
We fucking created and armed them.
It just doesn't make any sense. So, John Cena made a U-turn Tuesday. That's today. This happened this morning. That's why I wanted to talk about it. Again, this is going out Friday, but you'll hear about it later this week. He apologized to all his Chinese fans after he called Taiwan a country. Beijing sees a democratic self-ruled Taiwan as part of its territory, which is to be seized one day by force if necessary, and rages at any diplomatic attempts to recognize the island as an independent nation. Now, again, we go back to the NBA. The NBA has made a big push into China. It's probably their second largest. So here's the problem now. 5 years ago was their second largest viewing market. Steph Curry got really big over there. Stephon Marbury played over there for years after he left the NBA. A lot of guys are super popular from over there. And now with you've seen it over the past 2 years, especially from when they went into the bubble and then after. Viewership for the NBA is plummeting.
Fucking plummeting.
I mean, it is like the Oscars. It's going away. So they have to do that now. I mean, if you look at the Lakers jersey right now, the team LeBron James plays for, it's got wish.com on the fucking lapel right here. You think that's a coincidence? That dude won't say anything negative about China, that he's out there making blockbuster fucking movies and lining his pockets while people are getting killed.
Of course.
Right? For the way they look, the way they think, where they came from.
But I mean, isn't it
all this woke bullshit that he's fucking out there on the stump talking about all the time, this fentanyl head, right, that got killed because he's a career criminal. And let's be real, that's what happened. You know, Chauvin's a piece of shit cop.
Yes.
He's a lazy piece of shit.
Two wrongs don't make a right.
No. But that doesn't make George Floyd a fucking hero.
No.
That guy was a turd his entire life.
Fucking garbage.
And now he's been lionized by all these assholes who refuse to hold the biggest country on earth accountable for their actions. And it's not just about the way they treat Taiwan and the way they treat the Uyghur Muslims and all that stuff. They're responsible for 83% of all the industrial waste on this planet. But for some reason, that dumb little fucking Norwegian girl that's fucking 12 years old or whatever came over here to lecture us on her private boat, by the way, came over here to lecture us about our emissions. How about you fucking go to China and say that and see what happens? There's a quote in one of his songs. You know who Tom McDonald is?
No.
He's like a white rapper. He talks about political shit a lot. Here's what he says. just about, I'm going to read this whole block of lyrics because it's pretty interesting. It's more difficult to get a job. Eminem used to gay bash and murder his mom. Now he doesn't want fans if they voted for Trump. We're ashamed to be American. You should probably love it because you have the right to say it and not get strung up in public, right? Which is, goes back to what you were saying a few minutes ago. Now, this little girl, a 16-year-old, I think she was 14 when this first started. 16-year-old girl comes over here on her private boat because she's rich to chastise us for our emissions. 83% of them come from China.
Or even worse, she came over here on a private boat because somebody who wanted to push their own fucking agenda
paid for it,
played off of her 12-year-old emotions,
right,
and sent her over here to be a martyr of this cause that she literally has no fucking clue about.
Yeah,
right?
It's unbelievable.
I mean, it's
like her parents are giant pieces of shit. I don't blame the kid. She's a child.
Fucking giant pieces of shit.
She's a child, but it goes. This is the case in American politics in general. When somebody on the left gets Me Too'd, right? Like, I don't know, Andrew Cuomo. What have you heard about him lately?
Yeah,
why isn't CNN running a daily article on why is this guy still in office?
How did that go away?
He killed a bunch of fucking elderly people, right? Got $5.1 million advance for his book. Got an Emmy, right?
Lied
about all of it.
Killing him.
Lied about all of it. And then he's been fucking sexually harassing women for years. Bill Clinton is still a hero on the left. And this guy's raped women. Are you fucking kidding me?
My point is like everything that they stand for, all these causes that they're going to take to task. It's such a fucking double standard. Like if it's somebody in their circle, they're not going to go after them, right? But it's the same thing with the media. You know what I've never been able to get, and I've talked to, I know this personally. I have talked to guys who knew that there was a reporter about to write a story that was wrong and incorrect, but they won't go after each other because they're so afraid of fucking conflict. And like people in this nation are so scared of conflict, of taking something to task, that they're so fucking scared of conflict that they won't stand for anything.
Yeah, I mean they're so worried about the individual consequences of speaking out when something's wrong. They never took into account what the fucking consequences were of nobody speaking out ever.
And that's where we're at now.
Yeah.
Like that's where we're at now. You know who
and speaking out now, by the way, gets you lit up. A year ago, when everybody was like, hey, this doesn't make any sense, it seems like this virus probably came from that lab where they were doing research on this kind of virus.
Yeah, the only
you were called a conspiracy theorist, a psycho, a racist. Trump was like fucking crucified for this shit.
Yeah.
And it turns out it was all true. Not only was it true, and this is the uncomfortable truth, and I said this on Instagram yesterday. The uncomfortable truth of all this is that is two things. One, if the government now admits that that's what happened, then Fauci is culpable, right? People are going to start looking into why he was able to bypass federal law to fund gain-of-function research because it was outlawed, right? In 2017, it was outlawed, and he was able to bypass federal law somewhere. Somebody helped him do that, to move $1.2 million over there to do gain-of-function research, and that's number one. Two, there will be other government people involved, and then the second part of that whole thing is that if they admit all that happened now, right, they have to do it now because Biden controls the executive branch.
But here's the thing, right?
Right.
Like
so he can control how the investigation goes. He can make sure that nobody in his inner circle gets lit up for it.
I've never seen a politician get fucking held accountable.
No,
I don't know.
Well, Fauci's not a politician.
Well, come on, he might as well be.
But he's a government bureaucrat. He can be held accountable.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen because he's pushing. Like, there's too many people telling him what to fucking say, right? So that's not going to happen. But but here's the thing on the backside of it. More than trying to hold people fucking accountable, put them in jail and ruin their lives, I think, like, if we made it okay to say, hey, I was wrong, I had this information. The problem is America has taken away the right, like the ability to empower someone to say, hey, you know what? This was the information I had back then. I was wrong, and if I'd have had this information that I gained now, look at the war we were just in for 20 fucking years. Like if somebody could have said they were wrong back about second year in, we might have not been there wasting fucking billions of dollars and lives of guys. And it's the same thing through everything. You cannot. The fact is that if you come out and admit you're fucking wrong now in the United States of America, you are crucified. You're not, like, if we start building those people up of saying, you know what? That's courage right there. Courage is the ability to admit that you're fucking wrong, when you're wrong, no excuses, and being able to correct your right. But you can't ever correct your right without admitting that you were wrong. And that's the problem with where we're at in America right now, is you got all these people. Fauci's changed his idea, but they switch gears and change their mind without saying, hey, the information I had in the beginning, hey, it was based off these 3 things. Now we got this in, so I had to change it. And I was wrong then.
Yeah.
And what's the power of saying?
Well, one of the problems is the way he framed it. He said he had compelling evidence that it came out of a wet market from a bat. What compelling evidence did you have? Because they never released that shit. You know what I mean?
And that's fine. He might.
And now that the actual evidence has come out, that's not a good example, but yeah, you're right. There's got to be some principle of charity look, it's a respectable thing to admit that you're wrong and change positions. People in politics call it a flip-flopper because they're always looking for a way to damage their opponent.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if we quit trying to beat everybody down for admitting they're wrong, we would have a lot better of a world. Right? I mean, that's the issue. Like, fuck, you can't correct your mistakes anymore. Like, how many? I mean,
well, you can though. Like John Cena said that Taiwan was going to be the first country to be able to watch Fast and Furious 9, and then he came out and corrected. There is a situation where you can correct your mistake, and that's if you're bending to the woke mob. Well, right?
That's the problem, right? But you can't.
But it's so transparent. He's doing it for fucking money. This dude is a piece of shit.
He's fucking garbage.
Right. I mean, honestly. This is about here's what he said. And he said it all in Mandarin, by the way. So he took the time to learn Mandarin to say all this shit. I just want to let that sink in for a minute. All right. Hi, China. I'm John Cena. I'm in the middle of Fast and Furious 9 promotions. I'm doing a lot of interviews. I made a mistake in one of my interviews, he said. I made one mistake. I have to say something very, 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 3 veries important now. I love and respect China and the Chinese people. I'm very, very, 2 more varies. Sorry about my mistakes. So that's 5 varies so far. I apologize. I'm very sorry. That's 6. You must understand that I really love, really respect China and the Chinese people. My apologies. See you. Man. Imagine if he had spent the amount of time it took to learn and say that in Mandarin.
See, here's what I think.
Saying, you know what, this is a complicated issue, and you know what's more important to me than money is people not getting wholesale murdered because of where they came from.
Integrity.
Yeah.
So here's what I think is going to happen. I think there's going to be this slinky effect to all this wokeness, right?
By the way, the Chinese commenters on this post were still not happy. He said, you still didn't say that Taiwan is China. Is it so difficult? Actually, it's better to post a video and directly say that Taiwan is part of China. What's the point of apologizing? Please say Taiwan is part of China. Otherwise, we will not accept it.
Who the fuck cares? Fuck you, China.
Well, I mean, look, hold on. I'm going to look up John Cena's net worth right now.
So here's my prediction. I think probably before me and you die, he's
worth about $60 million. Now, how much money do you need?
Well,
how much money do you need? I can understand stealing bread if your family's hungry, right? I can understand that. There's some levels of morality that are flexible when it comes to taking care of yourself and taking care of your family. When you're worth $60 million, is 60 more million worth the death of all those people?
I mean, John Cena
you cannot be a bigger piece of shit.
So here's my prediction on all this wokeness, right? And this is where they have got to watch out on what they're saying, right? You see all this shit that's coming back to haunt people, like, the stuff that they said on Twitter 10 years ago and shit, right? Like, you see all that happening. I think in 10 years, when all this stuff corrects itself and realigns itself to where the country should be, I think all these people like John Cena, like all these people who have came out and said all this dumb shit, like, they are going to be held accountable. And like, in the long run, they are going to get fucking sank at some point.
I sure hope so. I mean, there's got to be. I gotta
believe it is. I mean, look, you can only have 10% of the country can only be so loud and cause so much disruption against the 90% for so fucking long before the 90% stand up and say, hey, enough's enough. We are done with all your social experimentations. We're done with all this stuff that you want to go pick a cause because you don't want to put the work in. And what we're going to do is we're going to start holding you accountable for this, and fuck this, you're done.
Yeah. I mean, there has to be some level of accountability. I said it earlier before we started filming, but the whole Me Too thing and the cancel culture from old tweets is basically like changing the rules of football and then going back retroactively and applying those rules to games that happened 20 years ago, affecting the outcome. It doesn't make any fucking sense, man. You can't, like, if you tried to do this in a court of law where you pass a new law and then you tried to retroactively apply it to a previous time period where things were different, that doesn't make any sense. Now, it is good to look at that and hold people accountable and say, hey, what you did back there was wrong, and give them the opportunity to say, you know what, you're right. That was wrong, and I'm sorry for it, and I'm doing better now, and I want other people to do better now. That has to be part of the process.
I think Black Lives Matter, I think the hashtag Me Too, I think all that initially started with...
It always starts with good intentions.
With a great intention.
Yeah, always.
For a cause that needed more attention, right? Like it didn't just start out of fucking nowhere. But I think what happened was, it's kind of like the Wounded Warrior Project. And this is how I can relate it. The Wounded Warrior Project started with great intentions. And then they seen the fucking aspect of how much money they could make by playing off people's emotions during a war. Yep. And then guess what happened? You had fucking CEOs
making seven
figures, right?
That's what I always say. It's people that have power, people that want power rarely deserve it, and people that deserve power very rarely want it.
And it
attracts those type of predatory people.
It does. And guess what? There's a lot of money to be made by playing the victim.
For sure, yeah. Especially these days. I mean, look at the fucking Black Lives Matter lady.
Well,
she's buying fucking $1 million homes all over the place. Meanwhile, subscribing to this 1619 bullshit where all of American history has been racist. Racist that it allowed you to buy multiple $1 million homes, I guess.
Yeah. And you know what kind of sucks though is like being a white male in this country now is that we're in this country, then we're in this country as a white male. Like imagine what my children like it's not even cool to be a white male anymore. Like you can't, like nothing we've done is earned. Like our businesses, the work we put in,
it's guilt by association, right? Because a lot of white people actually, maybe white people in general in the past have done some fucked up shit.
Yeah, 100%.
And governments forever though have done fucked up shit, and it's just a matter of who happens to be in power at the time.
Listen, there's fucked up Republicans, Democrats, Christians, Muslims, like all of them, like white. It doesn't matter. Everybody's done some fucked up stuff, and we can all do better. But like this whole like classification of all this easy grouping of all are bad is just
it's called
a lazy.
It's monolith, right?
Yeah, whatever.
That's what it's called. So when you take like to say that all Puerto Ricans are lazy, all black people are criminals, all white people are racist, whatever it is, they're all fucking lies, right? No, you can't reduce somebody to their physiological characteristics and expect to get a good read on their character. It doesn't work that way.
I just think it's laziness.
It is lazy, for sure.
I think it's fucking where people are lazy and instead of having to, I think it's lazy. And then I think what's happened is they've came out, they've made these broad statements, and again, they can't say they're fucking wrong, so they have to just ride. It's almost like picking a ship and going out in the Atlantic, and you know how like the old thing was that if the ship sinks, the captain has to go with it, ride it out. It's like the same thing. It's like whatever cause they jumped on, whether it's right or wrong, when they find out whether it's right or wrong, they still just gotta fucking hold on to it, and they're just gonna ride it.
Yeah, because there's no tolerance to fucking admit you're wrong and move on. You said before. I mean, and it's binary politics as well. This false choice between two things. If somebody, I mean, it's like in American politics, we play the would you rather game, and would you rather is always two bad choices. I mean, would you rather fuck Rosie O'Donnell or Hillary Clinton? I would rather kill myself. Is what I would rather do, right? Would you rather vote Democrat or Republican? Frankly, staying home, because neither one of these parties speak to me.
I mean, when you look at our last two elections, it wasn't about voting for who we wanted, but it was about voting of who we didn't want. You know, I mean, how fucked up is that? The freest country on the face of the planet, and we are that. We are I'm not going to say, I mean, I believe we're the greatest, but that's my opinion. Mm-hmm. But the freest country on the face of the planet, and by far the most powerful country on the face of the planet.
Right.
we are having the only options we get are us to vote in a democracy. We have to vote against the worst.
Yeah. Of all the
people.
350 or so million people that live here, we ended up with a guy with vascular dementia and a dude that had a fucking reality television show. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah,
that's what we were reduced to.
So I kind of take offense to that last to the last little thing that you said.
Because you like reality TV?
Are you talking shit about me?
Well, you weren't really a star. You were more of a supporting.
Yeah, but I was on one. So are you going to talk shit about me when I run for president?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll talk shit about you if you leave the room right now. So why would I wait until you run for office, fuckface? Right? Come on. Ghostbed.com/Drinking Bros. If you're going to talk shit, do it from a ghost bed. Get that adjustable base. Tilt yourself way up. You're going to feel nice and fancy. And the judgment you throw down at people will be amplified in effect.
I would like to have a ghost bed up here right now, especially the Lux with that cooling technology.
Didn't you just record an audiobook where they repeatedly told you not to say especially? And you still haven't broken that habit. That's how hard it is, by the way, to break linguistic patterns. You ever notice that? It's like impossible to change the way you talk. It really is, especially if you're from Kentucky.
And it's even worse
eating crayons all the
when
time.
you try to fucking change the way you fucking look. You know? Have you looked in the mirror lately?
No, I don't do that.
Yeah, well, you're good looking.
I'm a vampire, so I don't have a reflection.
So anyways.
Vampires sleep in ghosts. But they need to make a ghost bed casket.
Especially. It's not especially. It's especially.
I'm going to start saying especially now on accident. You know how everybody, like, we're making fun of people who said bro all the time, and now everybody just says fucking bro all the time? God damn it, dude.
Bro, listen. Bet.
Even women are saying
I
bro
keep
all
hearing
the time.
so anyways, so go check out GhostBed. They have 36 months,
36 months pay as you go. 20-year warranty.
20-year warranty. Go get them. They are the
30%
best.
off everything.
And they let us talk shit.
Yeah.
I mean, how cool is that? Right?
Yeah, we actually had Rich Bernstein, the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, on the show last week. Went out to dinner with him and their website engineer. They're really good dudes.
Such an awesome
super
dude.
fun. We're like, you guys don't ever get offended by anything we're saying, do you? They're like, even if we did, we wouldn't care.
Yeah.
We're not trying to fucking coddle people. We're trying to sell beds. And if your audience likes what you do, then who gives a shit?
Gives a fuck, right?
Like if somebody calls us, hey, we don't like what they said. And we're like, well, they sold a bunch of beds, so get fucked. You know what I mean?
Get fucked. Yeah, it's Dan's. That's why we want Dan as customer service.
It's 1-800-GET-FUCKED.
1-800-GET-FUCKED.
It's FUC.
But anyways, it is ghostbed.com/Drinking Bros.
Get the pillows, the sheets. I actually just ordered the new fucking the new cooling pillows or cooling sheets they have are. You got to get some.
I'm gonna get
They're
some.
the best. I'm telling you. I don't know what the material is, but it is amazing.
I'm gonna whenever
they stay cool all night.
Cause like I feel like my bed's about to get hotter because like I feel like that rubber doll.
Oh yeah, if you got it plugged in for sure, yeah.
Like that rubber doll is gonna be fucking hot, bro.
Yeah.
But anyways,
that's all we got today. So yeah, I want to go back to this LeBron James thing. Excuse me. It was Daryl Morey. He was the general manager of the Houston Rockets at the time, and he posted that logo for free Hong Kong or whatever, to let Hong Kong have elections and whatever the fuck. And this is one of a variety of different territories that China continues to lay claim to. Think about it this way: if the United States were using military force to maintain its relationship with Puerto Rico or Guam or American Samoa or any of those countries, right? If we had military troops running around there, making sure that they did what we wanted to do and weren't speaking out against America and blah blah blah, we would get crucified on the international stage and here at home,
for sure,
right? Everybody would be pissed.
I mean,
but somehow because of these woke heroes like LeBron, because he's black, right? That's all it is. Because he's a poor black kid from Akron, Ohio. That's why he can say and do these things. And this is the really funny part. After Morey said that, this is what LeBron James said. He said it was his belief that Morey was, quote, either misinformed or not really educated on the situation. So many people could have been harmed, not only financially, which is what he led with, by the way. Jesus fucking Christ, dude. It's like the emperor has no clothes on and everybody's pretending He's dressed nicely like, no, LeBron, we can see your dick, and it's got China all over it.
Yeah.
You piece of shit. He said, so many people could have been harmed, not only financially, but physically, emotionally, and spiritually, whatever the fuck that means. I'm not sure what a spiritual injury looks like, but it probably doesn't compare to being in a concentration camp. If I had to guess, LeBron.
Yeah, and where was this? There was this girl who just got out of a concentration camp and just gave an interview. Hold on, I'm going to look this up real quick.
Yeah. Excuse me. Rob O'Neill always says this. It's a Winston Churchill quote from back in the day. An appeaser is one who feeds a crocodile hoping it will eat him last. And that's what's happening right now. All these people see that China's a burgeoning media market, so they're doing all this stuff. At some point, that bill comes due, and the American population is going to move past all this woke bullshit and look back and be like, hey, you know what? You're kind of like Hugo Boss. You're kind of like Volkswagen. You're kind of like the Swiss banks where you supported the Nazis when they were in power. I know a lot of people don't like Nazi comparisons. I'm not a big fan of them myself. I don't like the way that Hitler's just thrown around everywhere. But I feel like concentration camps is right up his alley. That seems like a good parallel between modern China and 1940s, 30s, and 40s Germany.
Here you go.
You know what I mean? Like literal concentration camps. This isn't where somebody makes a mean tweet and says that we need to shut down travel from China because there's a fucking pandemic coming out of there, and you call them racist. This is people that are, because they are Muslim Uyghurs, are getting put into concentration camps and murdered. There's a vast valley of difference between those two things.
So China currently operates an estimated 1,200 concentration camps. 3 million members live there. Prisoners are raped, beaten, and tortured, and their organs are harvested for sale. There was a teacher that was incarcerated at one of the camps for months. So she just wrote a book. I can't say her name, obviously. I can barely even read my own fucking name. But she just wrote a book that came out, and she actually like wrote down like what it looked like. She said inmates had their heads shaved, and they like sweat, feces, urine, and they were kept in cramped conditions, and they were allowed to shower once or twice a month. This is right now. This is today in a world that like we're over here. LeBron James, you've got John Cena, who's a fucking garbage. Mm. He's out here supporting this country. I mean, like, could you imagine if I came out or you came out? I mean, it's dangerous in the United States of America when this stuff goes down for you to come out and say that you support cops.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean,
Isn't it crazy?
Yeah, when LeBron said all this shit, even NBC News about Hong Kong, by the way, Daryl Morey, even NBC News was like, this is kind of craven of you. It's like, this is clearly all about money. And they went on to say that this is a position. His position is, I don't know enough about this to speak on it, but you know enough about the FBI data and crime statistics in the United States to talk about systemic racism? No, you barely graduated high school, LeBron. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about, you stupid clown. We had Chris Hansen from To Catch a Predator on last week.
Yeah.
And he tried to pull that systemic racism bullshit with me, and I lit his ass the fuck up.
How'd that go?
It went well for me, right? He was wrong. He was like, he kept bringing up systemic racism. Finally, I was like, look, dude, you keep saying this shit. You and other members of the media, I understand that something being aberrant is what makes it news, right? So something outside the norm makes it news and it makes it reportable. But you keep pushing this narrative that there is systemic racism, and you're basing it off your own reporting. You think because you hear it so much in your own echo chamber that it must be true. The fact is there are 374 million interactions with police and civilians every year, and less than 1,000% end in some kind of negative way. Forget about the shootings and all that stuff in any kind of negative way. So you're full of shit. Finally, he had to admit that, yeah, but he tried to play it off by saying, well, I mean, they report what's different, right? That's not supposed to happen. So they report on it. I'm like, right. But again, you're framing this as if your own reporting constitutes reality. Like, yeah, there's so much of this. We hear about it all the time because you won't shut the fuck up about it. But it's not because it's happening every day.
But I don't exactly. But here's what they don't get is, and this is what's dangerous is, I get that, like, yeah, like something that's not supposed to happen or something that, that's wrong needs to be reported. But you know what needs to be reported more is what good is happening, what should happen that is happening inside the United States of America, because people are getting all their information from here. So perspective becomes reality. If I sit here and tell you every single day that, and it's kind of like hanging around negative people, right? Like, you hang around negative people, or you hang around alcoholics, or you hang around people who are into fitness, or you hang around whatever, right? You're going to eventually become what you surround yourself with, right? Like, what do people say? Your thoughts are the most powerful thing you have, right?
Right.
And the more you hear that, the more it's engraved inside of your head. And that's what's happening in America, is that all this.
Well, that's what propaganda is.
It's propaganda.
Yeah.
Right?
Propaganda. You say something long enough and loud enough, and people will start to believe it.
Absolutely.
That's the essence of propaganda. And if you're wondering again why people like LeBron James or even Steph Curry was another guy, and Greg Popovich from the Spurs here, that said, "Oh, we don't know enough about this to speak on it." Read a fucking book then, dude. If you're going to get into a $1 billion business with a country, motherfucker, if you're going to profit millions of dollars personally, and your industry is going to profit billions from this country, maybe check them out. Yeah. You would do a background check, right, before you got into business with somebody else. But you won't even fucking look at what's just on the surface in China. For sure. They have literal concentration camps open right now, and they're not even trying to hide it.
Yeah.
They're not even trying to hide it.
And it's even worse. And like,
that's why nobody watches the NBA anymore. I think the mind rebels. Like, you can get to a certain point with cognitive dissonance where you can stop paying attention to something, or stop. You're like, you know what? That sucks, but we still got a job to do. That only goes so far, and then people are like, you know what? Fuck these guys.
But it's kind of like this, right? Like, look at the shows back in the day that used to go a long time. Look at Andy Griffiths. Look at all these shows like Seinfeld, or you look at what were some of these shows back in the day that used to go forever, right?
Right.
They were really good. That was entertainment. That's why they lasted so many seasons.
Because they're entertaining. That's your job, is being an entertainer.
Look at how long a reality TV show lasts. You know why? Because people eventually just tune out of it, because like, these guys are fucking idiots.
You can only believe so much of that stupid bullshit. By the way, Fast and Furious 9 was directed by a Taiwanese-born guy named Justin Lin. I wonder how he feels about all this. Since Friday, by the way, as of this morning, the Chinese box office Fast 9 has made $137 million just since Friday. So if you have any questions about why John Cena is doing this, it's not about morals or ethics. He probably has no idea what's going on there. His publicist just said, "Hey, you know what? You made $137 million from China this weekend. You probably shouldn't say that." And he's like, "Oh,
that's how it went.
Oh shit, okay,
100%.
Yeah, you're probably right about that, man. They're doing right by us, so we should do right by them.
Yeah.
Fuck that. If the only thing it takes for you to accept somebody literally running concentration camps is that they give you a little bit of money, then you are completely morally bankrupt as a human being."
But here's what I want to say, because I like full transparency. I used to be that way. I used to have to pay my bills.
Yeah.
I used to have to listen to what everybody else told me I should say and what I can say. I used to get phone calls all the time that, hey, you can't post that on your social media because you can't be associated with this organization because of this. And guess what? I used to take it down. I used to cower to it, right? Because I needed to pay my bills. When you have fucking $60 million in the bank, you don't need to pay your bills. You don't need to feed your fucking family.
Right. Yeah, I've said this about police a lot of last year and a lot of earlier this year. If you're going to be one of those types of officers that does something like enforce curfews or be involved in anti-gun legislation and the enforcement of that, then fuck you. You don't have my support anymore. Like, if you're in any way involved in shutting down anything that has to do with the First or Second Amendment, then you no longer fall under the umbrella of my support, because the only reason we support you is because you provide and protect, which is the job of power, right? And when you stop providing and protecting, then you lose my support. This is how it is.
But you know what's crazy? So I have a buddy who's in the military. We both know him. Has a following on social media. They just told him, get this, he's not even active duty. Just told him that every post that goes on his social media, and I'm going to quote verbatim, every post that goes on his social media has to be ran through them.
Right.
And then they looked at him and he said, well, it's my First Amendment. And they said, you don't have a First Amendment as you're in the military. And he said,
That's not true, though. He doesn't have a First Amendment right when he's in uniform, speaking on behalf of the military. But when he's a private citizen, he can do whatever the fuck he wants.
That is not. They said that is incorrect.
It is not incorrect. Well, people have taken the military to court and won those cases. Now, I'm sure he's not going to. What would be the point? Well, exactly. He's probably not going to be there much longer, anyways. And then he's gonna, but he still does a lot of stuff. You know what I mean?
He does.
It's you know. The idea that you would shut down dissent of any kind is a problem, right? If somebody comes into your operation and starts telling you, like trying to help, actually in a lot of cases, trying to tell you what's wrong with the operation, and you shut that down, not only have you fucked up and silenced an important voice, you've also lost the benefit of what all this individual liberty is all about, which is to get. It's an idea meritocracy. The best idea wins because the best idea is the best for everybody.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You lose that. You start getting these situations where people start conflating power with ability, and it's not the case, right? Just because you're in power doesn't mean you have any ability, but certainly not niche abilities. If you're a CEO and you're micromanaging each one of your departments, there's no way you're an expert at logistics and at marketing and at branding. There's no way anybody is an expert at all those things.
No.
The true bellwether of a successful startup is that transition period. Once they get it's hard to get from 0 to 1 million. It's even harder to get from 1 million to 15 million. But once you get to 15 million, that's where most businesses fail. Yep. Most successful businesses fail because the people in charge refuse to give up control of things. But once they do, once they give up control, like, you know what, I'm going to bring in a marketing guy. I'm going to bring in media creators. I'm going to bring in this, or I'm going to bring in a CFO or whatever it is. That's when the business takes off because you've now empowered people to do exactly what it is they do. And in a democracy, which is what we are, I mean, we're a constitutional republic, but we operate by democracy. In a democracy, the more amount of data you get, the more voices you get that are well-informed, right? Which is why we should be paying for education.
That are well-informed.
Right.
That's the key.
Right,
we got plenty of voices right now.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, well-informed voices are more likely to get canceled if it doesn't fit the narrative. So the more well-informed voices we have opining on any situation, the better, because not only are we going to arrive more quickly at an answer, we're going to arrive at the right answer more quickly, which is obviously best for everybody. And you always have to ask yourself, when that doesn't happen, cui bono, who benefits? Who benefits from division?
Well, who's driving the message?
Right. It's the media and politics. They benefit from division. The politicians benefit from division because they force people to choose. So they can either have a couple million fans each because nobody really cares what they're doing, or they can pit everybody against each other and have 45 million fans each.
Well, I mean, that's how they maintain power.
Yeah, of course.
Like, there's a reason that our Constitution starts with
"We the people."
But it goes in real quick to "United we stand."
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's just common sense. It was true 244 years ago. It's true today.
United we stand, right? And like, the more divided we get, and we're so close. We all have, like, none of these opinions are anything new, right? Like, we're so close to being.
Oh shit! It's almost 245 years ago. A month and a half from now.
A month and a half.
It'll be our 245th birthday.
United States of America, right? Like, that word.
We use that word on purpose.
It's not divided.
Yeah.
States of America.
No, it can't be.
It's fucking insane.
But that's what we are.
We are now because we've allowed people to think for us. People with bad intentions. It's just crazy.
Yeah, but there's I always wonder what solutions to this stuff look like.
Let's talk about something positive.
Yeah, people think about. I don't think people fucking DM me and ask me all the time if I think there's going to be some kind of violent conflict. I really don't think so. Well, there might be. I don't know, but it's certainly not necessary.
We're so far from.
We have the collective power of America is not. And this is actually a quote from Gladiator, right? The power in Rome isn't the Senate; it's the fucking mob, right? It's the crowd in the Colosseum. That's the power. They knew that back then, 2,500 years ago.
But guess what? The United States of America was made to where the mob was supposed to have power, and that's the people. You know what I mean? It wasn't made so that the government wasn't set up for the government to have the power.
Right.
It was the mob to have the power.
No, the 9th and 10th Amendments of the Constitution were specifically to limit the power of the federal government.
But
like, here are some rules that we all need to follow. But anything not mentioned here, states. Go back to the states. You guys figure it out on your own, because they knew that if you decide things at the lowest possible level, then people's voices count the most. So you as an individual, let's say, just for round numbers sake, that there's 100 people in Texas and 1,000 people in the United States. You as a Texan have a 1/100th say here in Texas. You have a 1/1000 say in the United States. And your city, you might have a 1/10 say. So the lower you go down, the more influential your voice and opinion are. And the reason that matters is because we all lead different lives. We live in different areas with different climates, different economies, and all this stuff. Sometimes different cultures, but usually it's the economy that's different. And we need to make decisions based on that makes sense for us. It doesn't make sense for somebody in rural Oklahoma to be making $15 an hour, or maybe it does, but it doesn't make sense for that person to be making the same amount of money that somebody that lives in fucking uptown Manhattan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, look,
on the Upper East Side or something. That doesn't make sense.
The same.
Those things don't make sense. There's no reason those two people should be following the same types of economic laws
100%.
because they're in completely different economic situations. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but let's talk about something positive. Here's the stuff that keeps hope, that tells me that we're fine as a democracy and that we are fine as a country. Texas becomes the 21st state to allow residents to carry concealed weapons without a permit or training after lawmakers passed strongest Second Amendment bill in state history. So here's what I gotta say: in a time of wokeness, in a time where all this shit is, you've got Congress up there. You got some of the people in Congress talking about trying to take away guns from us. Mm-hmm. You've still got states who are going to stand up for what's right. We've still got people in there who are going to do what's right.
Governors and sheriffs, that's where the hope in America is.
Isn't it crazy how this just passed? But we had a guy who wanted to run for president running around.
From Texas.
From Texas, in the same
Hell
state.
yeah, we're going to take your ARs. Come on, Beto. Beto, you can't even get an erection, dude.
Where's Beto
at? He's hiding somewhere. Yeah. Actually, he's got an exploratory committee to run for governor of Texas.
So, but
good fucking luck. You know what I mean?
I think that if his exploratory committee doesn't come back to him after this passes, and says, probably not yet.
Yeah.
I'd say that they're probably not worth the money he spent.
But I mean, there's, it's positive and negative. Abbott also passed some super draconian anti-abortion laws, and if you look, people have very different opinions on this stuff, but it is a constitutional decision at that point. You know what I mean? And states overturning that is essentially nullification.
Look,
so that's going to become a problem. I mean, they for whatever reason, I don't know why, took it from 16 weeks, which I think is an appropriate time period, to 6 weeks, a time when most people find out they're pregnant.
Yeah,
that's when they find out. So I'm not going to weigh in on whether or not it should be legal or not. People and the courts will decide that shit. But voting on this at this level is here's the problem. It becomes a de facto ban on abortion. We've seen those get knocked down before. They tried it in Alabama a couple years ago,
never happened.
And they basically made it where the doctor had to have admittance to a major hospital nearby, right, to be able to perform anything in the clinic, and he had to do it at that instead of doing it at his clinic. Most doctors didn't have that. That's the reason they made the rule. So there were only 4 places in all of Alabama that you could go to get an abortion at that point. But regardless of how far along you were, even if it was 1 day or 2 weeks, whenever you can actually do one, it got knocked down by the Supreme Court, obviously, or actually in federal courts, and it never went to the Supreme Court, I think, because if the Supreme Court has ruled on something like R. V. Wade, right, back in the day, and then you try to pass a law that supersedes it, but like through the back door, it's just not going to work. If you want to do that, have the debate. Put all the facts out on the table and let people fucking decide, and whatever they decide will be the case. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if they want to outlaw abortion entirely in Texas, that is their right to do. I think, even though it's a constitutional amendment, the 9th and 10th Amendment to the Constitution, or I'm sorry, a SCOTUS decision, the 9th and 10th Amendment of the Constitution does say that nothing covered here goes back to the states.
So and let me just throw this out to you. Maybe this is as dumb as it might be, or maybe you'll give me your true thoughts on this. So if I ever ran for governor, this is what I would want to do with these types of situations. Why don't we bring it up for vote in the state of Texas? Why don't we bring it up for vote?
I'm into that.
Let the people vote on it. And
if
you don't show up to vote on it, then shut your fucking mouth.
Yeah, I like the ballot measure thing.
So I mean, it's a democracy. We're supposed to be able to vote.
Most of the weed legalization that's happened in the United States has been ballot measure stuff.
So for me, it's like it's a democracy. Like I could take this off of me as a of getting blamed as a governor of a state,
right?
By saying, hey, look, I brought it up on vote to you people. You get out there and vote on it. Like,
but you and I have, you and I have both spoken to lawmakers about stuff like this and 100%. How they feel about public opinion, and they've intimated to us that they think that they're trustees. They believe they are trustees of the public will, not representatives of the public will. And just as a reminder, it says representative in front of your name.
Yeah.
Literally says representative and then your name.
Yeah.
So you are a representative, meaning you should go to whatever links you have to gather accurate information that represents your people and then deliver it to the Congress and to the nation. We have to change the way we think about this thing. There has to be some provision where our Congress people go back to Congress and say, hey, my people feel like this. This is not something laid out in the Constitution, so I feel like our state legislature should be able to fucking do this, and you guys shouldn't be able to fucking interfere with it.
Yeah,
that's how it's supposed to work.
That's how it's supposed to work, but obviously it doesn't.
No, because, again, you give people power. When's the last time somebody was given power and gave it up without it being taken from them by force? I'll wait while you come up with no answer, because it's never fucking happened. Why would it?
Exactly.
Why would that happen? People are in love with power. It makes them feel in control. That life is tough. Life is fucked up. You don't know where you're going to be from day to day. And then what it feels like, whether it's recovering from war and getting your mind right, or getting into a better financial situation, or solving relationship problem, whatever it is, what it feels like to be empowered by things going the way they're supposed to be going, and for things to be going well for you. And then people transpose that onto others. Well, I want everything to go well for everybody else. And you get this inflated sense of ego. I figured my shit out, so that must mean that I can solve yours. But that's not how life works, because like I said before, we all have different life experience, different problems, and these things have to be solved in different ways. There's no way you can solve everybody's problems.
I mean, it's kind of like thinking you're going to have the same tactics in Vietnam as you are in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Well, we tried, right?
Okay, yeah. So
and it did not work out very well. So, we were rolling around in soft top vehicles and shit like that for years.
We need in Congress. We need individual thinkers, individual decision makers who can make decisions based on their district, on what their people need. I want to see
the data. I want to see
data.
I want to see some kind of online system where I can see what the people of AOC's district voted for, and if she legit represents the will of her people, then I'm not going to say anything else about it.
Congress
That's
should
their fucking
be
problem.
Statistical and logical driven decision making. It should not be emotional and woke. So and all that driven.
The counterpoint to that most people, at least on the left, would make is that things like Brown versus the Board of Education and the Civil Rights Act would not have happened had it not been for Congress stepping outside of the American public's wishes and doing the right thing, right?
I mean, but I disagree. I think that, I disagree. I think that, like, when we start looking at statistically,
right,
does it make sense for us to segregate people because of a color?
Right.
Does it make sense to?
Well, you still have to operate from some moral compass, right? You have to say
I show up on calls all the time. Like, when I go on a call, I'm looking out for people's best interests, and guess how I'm doing it? If I was emotional about it, I wouldn't be able to take care of them.
No, but people do. I mean, there is something about making sure that we're all on the same moral standard, because if the stated goal is to make sure that everybody is getting the same treatment, then that process can work however it has to work to make that happen, right?
Morals aren't emotions.
No,
morals
certainly
aren't
not.
driven by emotions.
Now, there's a really good book called The Moral Landscape by Sam Harris. He's a neuroscientist, and it talks about like a scientific approach to morality. And his premise is that the most moral something can be is that it promotes the most amount of conscious happiness, because that's what we experience in reality in life or whatever it is a paradigm between having joy and suffering, right? It's those two things. So the worst something can be is to make the most amount of conscious suffering. So we should be, everything that we do as human beings should be in some way to minimize conscious suffering and to maximize conscious joy, not only personally, but in the aggregate.
Dude, it's a simple fucking equation.
It really is.
And the way that democracy should be just like science. Science is not emotional. Science is driven by it's supposed to be driven by statistics.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be data driven. It's supposed to be driven by logic. And look at all these things. Like, yeah, I get that you have to have dreams. I'm not saying don't dream. You know what I mean? But what I am saying is like support what you're doing by statistics and data. You know what I mean? Like that's what's got us here. You look at anything that has been, you talk about progressive, that's progressive. That is progressive, that's going to sustain. All this shit that's happening right now, these are flashes in the pan. And the problem is it's not going to last. It's not going to last.
And that bill comes due at some point.
And it's not going to make a true difference.
Yeah. We'll see how the public reacts and treats these people that were super woke, but were also supportive of like all the Marxist shit we've heard about, people supporting Cuba and Venezuela, and then people supporting China over the last 15 years or so. We'll see how society reacts to that. I don't think they're going to get held accountable.
Nothing will happen. They're not going to hold them accountable because they're not making a difference. Nobody gives a fuck. Like literally all of this propaganda towards, the last three that you just mentioned are like it's kind of like, think about marketing, right? So you can spend marketing. Where do people worry more about the content and what they're driving? When they have to spend the money on the ads and the branding, or whenever they can have somebody advocate for it as like an influencer, right?
Right.
They don't give a fuck what the influencer says.
No.
Do it, right? It's because guess what? It's at the expense of the influencer.
But they're also speaking to their own audience, right? Well, so it makes the message more authentic.
Yeah, but some of this stuff. So like we're not talking. So like LeBron James in basketball. Yeah, he's speaking to his audience about basketball. Like that's
he's there. No. He's speaking to the audience that pays him, not the audience where he lives and where he's trying to make social change. I know, but that's the problem for him.
But my point is, and this is exactly so. Like my point is though,
I'm agreeing with you.
If you want to sit here and have him pitch Nike shoes, well, that makes sense in the realm of like, hey, for athletes and this and that, right? But when somebody comes in and says, hey, I want you to go speak on this political thing, or I want you to go out here and get on this deal.
Right.
Like, yeah, even though he's trying to talk to his audience,
right,
it doesn't mean that he's right.
No, it certainly doesn't mean that he's right. And you can see the motivations behind it. If he talks about woke BLM shit here in America, his corporate sponsors where he makes all of his money are all on the woke train too, so he still gets paid. If he wants to talk about social justice in China, right? He has to flip that. He has to say the opposite of what he says about BLM, right? Yeah. Even though they have concentration camps, so he can keep getting paid. It's all about money, and it always will be for him.
LeBron James and all these athletes who are making millions a year on $1 million contracts have about as much room and about as much credibility to be talking about oppression of African Americans about as much as I need to be talking to Marines about how to handle and how to live and how to be a Marine today.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
He's been rich. He's been rich since he was 17 years old.
17.
Yeah.
Like, I got it. He's done it before, just like I've been a Marine before. But I don't need to be giving people fucking advice on how to be a Marine in today's age.
No. And on that,
see you in hell.
See you in hell.